Hi, I'm Charles, and I'm going to attempt to answer the question, why are Jews so funny? And thrown in for good measure, I'm also going to answer why Christendom is so anti-Semitic. And the answer isn't that Jews are somehow magical. They're different from you and I. I assure you, Jews are human. So if Jews are human, then the question actually becomes, what's wrong with the rest of us? Why are we so unfunny? Why are we so unsmart? And why is Christendom so full of hate? The answer is cultural, so allow me to give you a brief summary of Jewish culture. So Jewish culture begins with Moses and the giving of the law. Now, the law is a contract between God and the Jewish people. It says, if you follow this law, you will, you will stay on the land, you will prosper on the land, you will be blessed by God. But if you do not follow this law, you will be cursed by God. And thus began the Jewish nation. David came along, became king, golden age. Solomon came along, built the temple, even more of a golden age. Solomon dies, things spiral downhill. The Babylonians come, they take everyone off in chains to Babylon. They knock down the temple. So now the Jews are in Babylon looking at their chains saying, how did this happen? It happened because we depended on those priests to educate us about the law. They didn't educate us about the law. So we had better educate ourselves. It wasn't God's fault, it was our fault because we didn't know the law. So they began, even in chains, to educate themselves about the Mosaic law. So after 70 years, they are miraculously returned to the land of Israel. And once they get there, they set up the synagogue system. That is, lay teachers teaching all the people what the law is and encouraging everyone to follow the law. They don't depend on the priest at the temple. Even though they've rebuilt the temple, they've learned their lesson. They're going to teach themselves. They're going to take personal responsibility. Okay, the problem with that, they discover, once they start looking at the law, is that there's big holes in this law. The law is, let's say it's a little unclear. But they want everyone to obey the law. So what they're going to do is make the law very clear and also very doable. They want to make the law as easy as possible. Okay, so how are they going to do that? I need to give you a quick example. For instance, there's a law that says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So let's say two men are out moving a stump in a field, and one swings an axe, and the axe head comes off, takes out the guy's eye. The guy goes to the elders and he says, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. You'll find him out in the field. So the elders reluctantly go out to the field. That's the law. They got to do the law. They get out to the field. They find the man. But when they find the man, they discover the man has only got one eye. Therefore, if they do that disgusting job of putting out his eye, they're not really achieving justice. They're blinding a man. The other man just lost one eye, but this man would be blinded. So they rose the, at least theoretical question, what do we do in this circumstance? How do we make this law doable? Because as stated, it isn't fair. That's not what God wants. God wants fairness. He doesn't want eyes put out. And so what they ended up doing was, after they discussed it amongst themselves, they decided they were going to make it a monetary compensation system. They're going to get away from the actual eye for eye, tooth for tooth thing. That's the principle. But they're going to work out a monetary system to make all parties happy. That way people will still support the law. They'll be happy to do the law because it'll be fair and equitable. And so that's what they did. And how they got to that conclusion was all those lay teachers got together and everyone put out their idea. And what they do when they get an opinion is they start from the least experienced, the newest person, newest member of the group, and they go around the room to the most august member of the body. Okay, the reason they do that is because they want to hear from all the new people first. They want the freshest ideas. They want the old men talking and then younger men lining up behind various people. Very shrewd. So they take everyone's opinion, they discuss it, they argue it. And then what they do is they vote on it. But it's not done like that from now on. It's just done like that until it becomes a problem again. And then they will all come together, and if it needs to be changed, it'll be changed. And so this is their culture, that they will think about, discuss, and to a certain extent modify their core values, their religion. These attitudes and qualities that are necessary to make a law under these circumstances, under democratic circumstances, and that's the answer, by the way. All three answers are democracy. That's what makes Jews so funny. But let me finish this up. Okay, the skills you need to be a great scientist are the same skills you need to debate in the Sanhedrin. In the case of Christians, it's the exact opposite. The Christians adopted the Roman top-down approach, the authoritarian approach to rule. And authoritarians hate democracy. And so the powers that be, first in Rome and then in the church, was how do we get rid of these terrible examples of democracy in our midst? Look at these people. They're offended. They're not really offended, they're threatened because the Jewish approach to religion is superior to the dictatorial approach of Christianity. Comedians, if you think about what they're doing, they're actually doing a parody of authoritarian rule. Now, a comedian comes out, he's benevolent, how you doing, smile. It's very disarming, everyone loves their dictator. But the dictator will not tolerate anyone speaking in opposition. A comedian definitely jumps right on a heckler. Not only do they jump on hecklers, they don't allow any cross-examination in a funny room. If somebody's doing comedy, they are controlling the message, just like an authoritarian. And just like an authoritarian, they're choosing their words very intentionally. Well chosen. So they're not allowing anyone in the audience to ask any questions because their setup depends on controlling the information, exactly like an authoritarian. Okay, but with a joke, they set out a premise, the audience buys into it, they make sure they'll keep working till everybody's bought into the premise, and then there's the punchline. The punchline is where it's revealed that part of that, somewhere in that premise, was buried a lie. Just like a real authoritarian, they're going to control the information. They're going to lie to you, to your face. They might even have a big smile on their face when they're lying to you. They sucker you in, they lie to you, and then you're surprised. What? I trusted the authoritarian figure and he lied to me? But that's what comedians do. They lie. But what they're doing is they're showing you the pitfalls. It's all about the pitfalls of an authoritarian society. They're saying don't let yourself be dictated to because you will be lied to. And they're brilliant at it because They're Jewish. They see right through the authoritarian culture, but authoritarians can't even see their own culture because they're not allowed to closely examine their religion or anything else in their lives. It's all about falling in step with the rest of what everyone's doing, whatever's been dictated in the past. And that's why Jews are so funny. They're so smart. And Christendom is cut sad little hate-filled hearts. But there's hope for you yet. Throw off the authoritarians, and in no time at all, we'll all be as smart and funny as the Jews. Thanks for listening. See you next time.